mildly offensive if you are a tech geek, which I am tonight. So my name, as Steve said, is Kirsty Styles. That's Styles as in Harry. Doesn't really work with geeks. And by Styles as in Harry, I mean our names are spelt the same. We are neither related nor married, as far as I know. And we are definitely not related and married, because that's frowned upon. Anybody from Warrington? Yeah, just me. I always check just in case. We were recently voted 325th out of 325 towns and cities for being the most cultured place in the UK. Which means we're the least cultured place in the UK, and people were going, that's not true. That's not fair. We had the first IKEA in the UK. So, you know, Warrington is the pioneer of Scandinavian design. Any couples in this evening? Didn't know whether that was going to be, you know, geeks? Question mark. Any couples in this evening who are only going out with each other because it makes your rent cheaper? You don't get many volunteers for that one. There's something quite like being forced to sleep with somebody by David Cameron, but that might give you some idea of what it's like to go to Eton. Anyway, anyway, I only have 9 minutes. I have less than 9 minutes. I have 7 minutes, so I better get on with the set. I would call it a set, but it's actually a diatribe. It's a diatribe I like to call glass holes, YouTube wankers, and other reasons we shouldn't trust technology or ourselves. So stand-up, I've always thought, is a bit like dating. You know, lots of potentially hostile strangers, apart from with stand-up, you've usually got a lot more people, depending on what you're into, of course. And whatever that is, that's between you and Google and GCHQ and the NSA and those third-party data companies who buy your data, who know that you searched for herpes that time. When you had that thing. And whatever that, oh God, that's the same thing again. Just to be totally transparent, I'm not a techie, I'm a tech journalist, which essentially means I take apart other people's life's work for money. A bit like Jeremy Hunt is doing for doctors, or insert any Conservative minister and any disenfranchised public sector worker, and you've got yourself a punchline. I'd also just like to be clear that although I might be out of a job, I think that the way that technology is going today is the wrong way, at least where we've been going for the past few years. Sure, technology has been great. It's the reason why I'm not standing here completely naked in front of you today. Yes. My mere clothes are technology, which means that you can't tell that I'm pretty much covered head to toe in hair, which is great for the people standing in the front row, of course, and the reason my nickname is Harry Styles. But right now, today, technology, as I see it, is a mess. Men don't get the spotlight enough, am I right? I know you're probably all thinking, whoa, woman on stage, overload. Give some of those white men a shot for once. Lucky for all of you, you're now actually all living in the future, World 2.0, where Google and Facebook, geeky men who spend too much time in front of a computer, rule everything. Hooray! World 2.0 is powered by startups. It's a world where cardigans, beards, and coffee consumption are considered defining character traits. Where the men of East London and Silicon Valley can get away from the peasants riding public transport and embrace the skateboard, the foot scooter, or the Uber Lux. Where dudes can head into the office safely knowing there's a warm room full of other guys there waiting for them and they can get down to some serious ideation. All to help solve some of the white middle-class dudes' biggest problems. How do I pick up women without actually having to have anything other than a face? How do I make money from things that I already own? How do I win at life? Well, you'll all be pleased to know, and you all already know, that they've been doing a very good job of this already. Tinder, a time-efficient way to get around that pesky personality thing. Airbnb and Uber, because sharing should pay, right? Facebook and Google, making white men billionaires. Again. So I got one of the co-founders of a startup I've worked for as Secret Santa, bearded icon that Santa is, and of course I went for the kind of piss-taking gift a northerner would give their boss. That was Your Dad Was the Original Hipster book. I don't know whether you've seen it, but it's a collection of images of fathers from the 70s who never realised quite what the icon status that they would later assume. So this guy's standing in East London, in his East London warehouse office, complete with a meeting fort, ping pong table, sometime dog visitor, and all of the free cola you can knock back. He opens his gift while wearing standard issue brightly coloured trousers and thick milk bottle glasses and says, Well, I guess this was a last-minute gift or something. No, this was a test of your self-awareness. The joke for the person who knows that really they're living the cliche. He failed. True story. Within our lifetimes, starting a business used to be called, well, starting a business. Today, in the startup bubble, the startup bubble is a world of ideation, having ideas, monetization, that's selling things. It could be friendship via Facebook or sharing via Airbnb. And of course, the high value exit, that's selling the shit thing you built, funded by the bank of mum and dad. Yes, the brightest and best the world has arguably ever produced, who were once headed straight down over to the city to missell you a financial product that you never needed, are now flocking straight over to the other film set of capitalism, the movie. That's Silicon Valley, where homelessness increased by 20% from 2011 to 2013, or that's Tech City, Hackney, one of the poorest places in the UK. The guys in Silicon Valley and Tech City, and it is guys, white 28-year-old guys to be more exact, are sitting around solving problems. And I'm sure world hunger and climate change are up there, but day to day, these guys don't really have any problems. Another taxi app it is then? I recently chatted with somebody about a mail-order tampon startup. Just a cheeky halfway point reminder that yes, women bleed. And the founder is pitching her idea to a bunch of all-male venture capitalists who would buy a stake in your granny, I assure you, if they think that they could make her into a multi-billion-dollar business. And she's obviously explaining why it's such a huge market, 51% of the world. And one of the guys interrupts her and says, "Is there any chance you could use a different word instead of period?" Well, I could say menstruation. It has the word men in it. Everyone, I'd like you to imagine a world without Google. Well, I'm guessing most people in here are Gen X, Gen Y. Everyone, I'd like you to pretend that you're using Google, typing in a search, what comes up, images, videos, things you could buy. That's something that in the past we used to call imagination. And as well, you could use your imagination to think about what the next holiday you might have would be like, or the next skirt you're going to buy. As well as signaling the end of imagination, our employment, our identity, privacy, prosperity, justice and civility are all being given away by us at the swipe of a screen. Companies like Amazon are actually acting under the illusion of job creation, but in 2012 it was estimated that Amazon actually cost 27,000 jobs in the US alone. And we actually all work for Google. The more we use Google, the better it becomes, which means it's valued at $400 billion and has just 46,000 workers. I told you this was a diatribe, it's not funny. As a journalist, I spend my life crouching in corners of rooms and walking around with my arms in the air. No, I'm not high all of the time. I'm constantly hunting for plug sockets and Wi-Fi so I can file the next big story about the essentially useless data-driven startup that is coming for your souls. There's nothing quite so profound as the feeling you get when you look at your phone and your laptop and all you can think is, I just don't want either of you to die. That's the modern connected world's equivalent of having those exact same feelings for the people you used to call your friends and family. Feelings, for those who aren't clear, are the thing you have when you type something into Google and by God you were right. We are always on connected consumers, and as the marketers would call it, working our job at Google and making ends meet by working a 0 hours contract, flexible working in pursuit of our dwindling dreams. Last year I found myself at a conference where the head of a made-up job role at Coca-Cola was talking about how their company would have to change its strategy if it wanted to connect with the next billion who come online. Whether that's through Google's internet balloons, which are a real thing, or not, I'm actually pretty worried about that day. So you mean we've been literally starving, and this is what you've been doing? Cats! While some may say, oh no, it's great. We don't have to teach kids skills anymore. We can just teach them, how to type stuff into Google. That actually makes for pretty dull conversation and pretty shit pub quiz teams. I was standing in the old fountain near Old Street. That makes it a specific story, which means that it's true. Waiting to get served a few months ago. And so as the blindly friendly northerner that I am, I turned to the fella next to me and started talking to him. I asked him what he does for a living, and of course he works at Google. He works in their search engine optimization team. That's enhancing our collective digital amnesia to you and me. And of course the first words out of my mouth are, have you ever thought about using your powers for good rather than evil? And he said, I actually used to work for the Israeli military, making the sight finders on their weapons more accurate. Anyway, can I have your phone number? True. Can I carry on until the end, or do we stop?
Keep going.
Okay. So, and you know, I worry about the day when, you know, they turn the internet off. How will you cheat at your pub quiz then? Oh yes, you may say, why would they ever do that? But why would Google buy a company that makes robots and another that makes robots as smart as humans? Well, who cares? All I know is they know where you live, who your friends are, and probably where you're going to hide. Mum's house, of course. With the flick of a switch, yes, trust me, it's that simple, I'm a journalist. None of us know who we are, how to get from place to place, and they've got a legion of killer robots coming to find us. So come on, oh pointer out of shortcomings, what's your big answer to all this, I hear you ask? Well, unlike Google, I don't have all the answers, or even that super awesome, did you mean this function. Yes, I meant herpes. I've got this thing. I'm a bit more like Siri, still trying to work out exactly what everyone's saying in order to come up with the right solution. But what I do know is technology won't save us. It's what we do with it that counts. And that's either a whole load of cat memes or using it to transform our world. I think we should start with a code of ethics for tech people, just like doctors and lawyers and journalists, because, you know, you don't have to follow it, news of the world, but it's a start. And we all have to start taking responsibility, reaching out to policymakers who genuinely have the power to curb the excesses of the 0.0001% of tech billionaires who are holed up in their gated communities with their private security teams plotting to set sail on their lawless libertarian island ships. True story. The world is built on fear and greed. So said a former startup boss to a 20-odd-year-old me, just as I'd headed down happily from Warrington to London to join the movement that I thought was going to save the world. In fact, what I just joined was a Klondike not witnessed since the great gold rush of the late 19th century, with perhaps even more beards. Actually, I thought quietly, it's built on weak societal structures that could collapse at any moment. What's to stop me? And then I found myself standing, looking at the burning building with only a hazy memory of what had just happened. Thank you very much.